E a Lelé são duas garotas do desacato. A Lala e a Lelé provocam até cenas de fugilado. A Lala e a Lelé são duas garotas do desacato. A Lala e a Lelé provocam até cenas de fugilado. Se alguém quer vir pro samba, olha a roda com uma fé. Se quer loura tem Lala, se quer morena tem Lelé. E depois faço uma ideia, o que é que o samba dá? Com a loucura da Lelé e com a doidice da Lala. E a Lala e a Lelé são duas garotas do desacato. A Lala e a Lelé provocam até cenas de fugilado. A Lala e a Lelé são duas garotas do desacato. A Lala e a Lelé provocam até cenas de fugilado. A Lelé, que coisa louca, é bom.
Hello, hello, and welcome to welcome to Sippin' Sixtea with Alexandra Loves. I'm here with my new friend Nwabueze Okoye. I'm so glad that you decided to spend time with us. Thank you for being here. Where are you coming in from?
Thank you. I'm in DC right now, and I just teach a class for elderly folks, an energy movement class. I'm hearing they're healing their bodies, and this gives me great joy because during the pandemic time, perhaps our elders are feeling a little cut off from society. I'm glad that we can give them a chance to be, we can bring them back into the fold and let them know that their love got them.
Sweet. It sounds like what you're saying is our elders tend to be cut off from our society, and this is a good way to bring them healing energy back in. There's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I see there's a little delay somehow. I'm not sure it's coming from my end or how am I sounding to you right now?
It's not there anymore. I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you. Friends, Nwabueze Okoye, How I Met Nwabueze Okoye was online. Please check him out online. He's in Nwabueze Okoye online, and I'll post his Facebook. But a friend from Africa Week at Shell Seasons said, you need to check this guy out. He sent me videos twice of Nwabueze Okoye doing Qigong movements online. He's like, you have to check this. This first time I was like, you need to check this guy out. The second time I was like, you have to check this guy out. And I started watching his videos, and I started seeing, what I saw was someone talking about really well in a gentle and also assertive way about, or I should say in a gentle but also really grounded way is a better terminology for that, about our responsibility to our bodies and ourselves and healing ourselves. And so I was watching him do Qigong, and I was watching him, using cuttlefish to talk to animal spirit guides, and talking about crystals. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I want to know more about this. And then started to really get into his other work with Qigong, and asked him to come to Africa Week 2020, our last event, and he did. So I'm really excited to have you here as to talk about the health journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. And yeah, it's really it is the journey, is our health. It's a major part of our ambition and curriculum. Is recovering our health, because our health is truly our wealth. And you can have everything in the world. You can have foreign cars. You can have a driveway full of Teslas. And you can have buckets full of gold, the best organic food. Whatever desires you're into. If you don't have the health to enjoy all that, then what do you have?
Word. Nothing.
So you see,
Right.
so the foundation is.
Could I ask you a few of the questions that we ask all of our Sixtea guests that our attendees are excited to hear from you?
Sure.
Okay, the first question
Go
is,
ahead.
I'm so excited to ask you this because in some of the Qigong that you share online, you talk about animals and animal positions. And so the first question is, if you could be an animal, a non-human animal, what animal would it be and why?
If I could be an animal, that's a great question. I probably want to be a dragon. And I would say a dragon, yeah, because it's like a reptile that can fly, you know?
Ooh.
So it has the benefits, it has the benefits of a snake and being able to slither and regenerate itself and recoil, and kind of do its own thing as a
Yes.
king reptile, apex predator. But then it has the ability to fly and to, whenever something gets on its nerves, breathe fire. So, dragon.
I have a question for you. Do you think that dragons really existed? Because I totally believe that they did.
Yeah, I feel that they definitely did. You know, there's a really cool book. I don't remember the name of it now. It's an old Taoist. It's the first shamanic book. It's the oldest shamanic book Chinese still have records of. And in this book, shamans were detailing dragons in their day. And this book dates back to probably the dynasty. Yeah. The question then becomes, which dimension, because now we're talking about shamans are people who leave the ordinary dimension and can move into other realms. So which dimension was dragons being encountered would be the question. Would it be the ordinary realm that we're in, which is the fourth dimension, or was it in a different dimension? Sure, the energy is there for the dragons to, I believe they once promised up, for sure.
You believe they want
the Game of Thrones.
What?
So it's kind of like Game of Thrones. It's kind of a reminder to us of something definite from our past.
You're breaking up a little bit. I really wanted to hear that last part.
Okay. I'll say the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones
is reminding us about our past. Yeah, it was reminding us about our past.
Okay. Now I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I don't know their relationship with dragons. But I do feel like, I don't know. I feel like if you knew that there was this reptile flying and could breathe fire, then I feel like naturally I feel like people would have, especially in those times when people maybe had more of a connection with the earth and animals and nature, I feel like there would be a very easy reverence for them. And I have this feeling of that there were maybe the possibility of friendships and cooperation or collaboration with dragons was a possibility back then. What do you think?
Yeah, it's most definite. I mean, you can say man has bonded with pretty much every animal, you know, on the Pacific and in the deep. You know, I was just watching a video yesterday on YouTube where a woman, she's like a shark whisperer. You know?
Yes.
So like, yeah, so it's just like, you know, and then I saw another video with somebody who was in a snake pit with all these cobras hissing at him. He was just bopping them on their heads. There were like 30, 40 snakes in the pit with him. And he was fearless. You know? So, I mean, this is just showing us we have the ability to, because we are of nature, we have the ability to mesh with all nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to to do so.
Eze, is there something that you discovered about yourself in this year 2020, this portal, this death of the world and beginning of the new one? Is there something you noticed, like something significant that you discovered about yourself this year that you would share with us?
That's a good question. So I would say that for 2020 has been definitely a very insightful year for many of us.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I just think of all those 2020 posts that people were writing prior. This is the best year, and it's going to be the year of change and transformation. Oh, our vision's going to be so clear. And it is. It's definitely cleared up. But I think what I've learned this year the most was to have more confidence and trust in my abilities to teach and to cast my net wider and be confident that it will catch caught. And whatever is caught, I'll be able to provide nourishment it needs to grow. So that's been taken to a new level. You know, for instance, when COVID struck the area, it was like March, mid-March, early to mid-March. And so health business I was a part of, they closed. All the providers shut their doors. And so we were out of work for like months.
Yeah.
And so I was watching, you know, like when you tip the hourglass over and all those sands do like that. That was my bank account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So after like 3 months, I was like, yeah, something needs to change. I mean, I'm fortunate I had 3 to 4 months of savings, you know, that I could just kind of chill and not have to work for like 4 months. But then after a while, I was like, all right, something has to change here, you know. And I began changing my strategy towards online, as some of my students were asking of me to do in the past. And I was like, yeah, when health freezes over, I'll start doing classes online. And then COVID struck. And I haven't taken the temperature in a while, but I'm sure it's close to that freezing point. And so I'm doing what I'm doing, made the change. And I offered a water divination class for my tradition of Igbo in Nigeria. And it was wildly successful. And then my latest offering, which is on the energy body and how to awaken the healing spirit. Again, wildly successful. So, I mean, I just didn't know like this kind of, you know, it's just such an honor to be able to teach and do what I love and be paid very well to do so. That's kind of what I learned this year. Even an old stubborn ox can do something new.
I really appreciate that because as someone who has been teaching online for a long time, as with any skill, I'm feeling sort of a plateau, and I think I was forgetting to have gratitude for the fact that I could reach people. How many people I was actually reaching online, and so this is a really great reminder of to be grateful for the fact that you can reach so many people and that people are willing to show up the best way they can online, and that even in a time when we're being asked to close doors, especially if we have brick and mortar, you know, or used to going to brick and mortar places to see people up close, that we still have this medium, social media, and, you know, online, you know, contained spaces that we can deliver our messages to and still be a part of helping heal the world. I'm glad you got online because that's how I found out about you. And I'll tell you, I've shared the stuff that you've done online before, and people in my friends groups, like from all over the United States, are like, "Oh yeah, Eze, yeah, I know him." So you reached a lot of people.
I'm grateful. I give thanks. Yeah. It's that always surprises me when I hear that. Or if I'm in DC or in Maryland or Virginia, we call it the DMV, respectively. In this area, there's 3 states. DC is not technically a state; it's a state.
Mhm.
DMV region, and people will just be like, "Hey, oh, I saw your Qigong video. Hey, we're friends on Facebook," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," you know. But I'm seeing that the word is spreading, the work is spreading, and I'm very grateful.
You know, I've never seen a melanated man, do qigong ever. Never
Yeah.
even seen it, let alone teach it with such wisdom and having such a, you know, how long have you been studying qigong?
Since the year 2000. Well, yeah, studying since the year 2000. I broke into it when I was along in college. I was in my college years then, and a man who I was playing sports. I was playing track and basketball in college, and a man who was watching me play ball. He's like, "Hey, your game is good, but I can make it better." And I
Yeah.
looked at him. I looked at him, type skeptically, like, you know, what can you do? And he's like, "Meet me tomorrow." This is like one of those old. It seems like one of those old Chinese tales or something. It's like, "Meet me by the fountain in front of the library tomorrow. And I'll show you." So my curiosity was stoked, and I went, and he began introducing me to the world of Tai Chi.
Hmm.
That was the entrance. I haven't looked back since. And, you know, my track injuries that I had coming in because I was long and triple, you know, I was pretty decent. I was like, you know, I was one of the best in New York State, for jumpers and long jumpers. And, you know, so I had some injuries in my back, low back, and definitely my knees, you know, from all that jumping and that bounding. And in a couple of months, the Qigong and the Tai Chi combination, all that.
Wow.
Right? I was like, oh, there's something here. And so, you know, when you get that kind of payoff, it's incentive to continue going, continue exploring, continue seeking. Sometimes we get into something, but we don't go far enough to
Yeah.
see the reward. And because once you reap that reward, you're going to be motivated to continue.
That's very true. And I found that with just simple sitting meditation, with my monkey brain just going, and I have tried to meditate so many times in my life, and it wasn't until probably like last year where I think I set myself up for 40 days. I was like, for 40 days, I will do 7 minutes in the morning, every single morning. Doesn't matter what. Even if that's 7 minutes, like I can't even get a rhythmic breath. Even if in that 7 minutes, like I can't stop my breath, but I will sit. And there was a point, and I don't remember which day, but it was more than 30 for sure, where I had these like pings, these like little pings, these moments of almost like, I wouldn't say left my body because I felt really grounded in where I was sitting, but just like nothing was going on. It was like the focus was just like an orange aura, or, you know, whatever it was for that day. And I just felt I was able to sense and feel all the cells in my body, and have this beautiful experience where like breath became something that I wasn't even aware of. It was just something that I was, you know, whatever the, you know, I can explain the experience. It's different for everybody. And I was like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Oh, but it took me like so many days. And I think that's true for so many skills. Like, until you start reaping the benefits where you find that pleasure coming, that pleasure coming back to you, or that the healing, or, you know, however we're going to name whatever is supposed to come back to you. Oftentimes we kind of like put it down, say it doesn't work, or I don't know if I'm really willing to go through this process. And I think as a teacher, do you find that that's a lot of like part of your teaching is like keep finding ways to inspire people to keep going?
My teaching is inspiring ways to find ways to inspire me to keep going. And when I find the inspiration for me, generally it shows off to others. You know, but because I recognize that everybody has their own individual journey, and it's not something that can really nudge people into their own path. You have to kind of let them find their own way.
Yes.
I know back in the days when I was like a hardcore Christian, back in those same college days, and I literally go have a game plan. Like, I'm gonna go into the mall today and convert to Jesus. Today, you know,
He was a hardcore Christian. Oh my God.
There's been a lot of evolutions to me. A lot of evolutions. So, like, you know, and if people, I might find some people who follow the Islamic way or the Buddhist way, and I'd be like, you're wrong. This is the only. Yeah, I was one of those people for a while, you know, and then. And then I changed over. I stayed with the Qigong and the Tai Chi, and my mind changed. Because when, like you said, once you find that incentive, that reward, you stay in it, especially with these inner technological practices, such as meditation and Qigong, breath practices, energy practices. You're going to find that your whole mentality will begin to shift as well. And there's like a seed within us of creation that begins to open, to blossom. And that seed becomes something that does not really judge. It just accepts.
Yeah.
There's kind of like, at least how I've walked this earth, I've discovered this kind of three major journeys spiritually people take. There's one that's called the heroic, the hero, which comes from Peru. You know, Egyptian, we call it Neter or Neteru, which is where the Latin people get the word nature. Latin people being the Romans. Well, really the Moors, let me say properly, my teachers, and the scholars in the audience, the Moors brought Latin to Europe. And so then when the Moors brought it to Europe, they brought it to Germany, to France, to England, to Ireland, right? The Danish people, you know, all these people, their original forefathers were Moors. And you can see it on their royal arms, the royal coat of arms. You'll see a black-faced Moor as the image, and they take immense pride and stock in that. So I'm talking the Germans, the people who sit right now in the place they call the castle in England. What do they call that? London, England, the royal family.
Birmingham Palace?
Buckingham, right?
Buckingham Palace.
Their original stock is Germanic. German was called Herman, which was for Haruman, because those Germanic, which were called Vikings, other people called them the Visigoths, they were the fighters, very fierce fighters, and they were the ones who plundered ancient Kemet in the north. And the Kemetic people saw that they were so fierce, they called them Herman, like Haruman. And that became German, right? Those Germanic stocks, those also were they interbred with the Moors. Moors brought some of the knowledge to the Germans, to Europe, spread. And so what I'm saying is that, you know, African spirituality is intermingled within the whole world. And even the European family, when you look back to their bloodlines deep enough, they still have parts of us inside that family bloodline, that lineage. Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like the more I talk to people who study spirituality, the further I go into my studies, I just find more of what you're saying, this intermingling, this mixing, this I was talking the other day with Angela on another Sixtea, Angela Amayas, and she was talking about how her practice is Christian. She's very Christian, and she had said something that I fully feel and agree with, and that was that we're all part of the same body. You know, and I find sort of in this world, you know, this world right now where there's revolutions happening and there's a lot of sort of, you know, activism and you know, people are in the fight, whatever that is for them. I think the fight's inside really, but whatever the fight is for them. And this I see so many ideas that seem powerful, but are not taking into account that we all have to live on this earth together and we are all the same species. And
Well, I would say we're very much similar, but I don't know if it's fully the same. And I'll direct your memory to, remember when in the 60s there was a space launch to the moon, right? And the astronaut placed this iconic United States banner supposedly on the moon surface. Do you remember that imagery? And the words they used were very key. Did you hear the words they used when the broadcasters spoke? They said, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind, right?
uh-huh.
So mankind is a kind of man, but it's not the true man. It's not the original man. They know what they were saying when they said what they said. They said, this journey to the moon is one small step for man. But for we, mankind, this is one giant leap for mankind. It's small, but it's subtle, but it's quite weighty in what they were saying. So there's a distinction, because we know that if you look for the oldest fossilized remains, you can go 2 to 3 million years for man. But for mankind, we see their origin starting about 6,000 years ago near the Caucasus Mountains. Right? That's mankind. Right? So one aspect says we come directly from God, our origin, our genesis. That's man. That's man's story. Mankind says they evolved from apes. Right? We can't muddy the waters. You have to listen when people telling you where they're coming from. You have to listen. Right? So what we're finding is mankind is ruling over man in these times, right? And that's kind of where all the issues come in, because mankind is the youngest of their family. But imagine if you give a baby an AK-47, you know, and just say, "Go ahead, Johnny, just go have some fun." And that's what that's what's happening in the world right now. So,
So are you suggesting that, by what you're saying, are you suggesting that right now on Earth we have presently, like today, that we have different types of man in all of mankind because of the evolution?
Yeah, so we have man, and we have mankind. There's definitely been some mixing of these two streams, but they're not exactly the same, right? Huh. Yeah, they're not exactly the same being, right? So, but we share characteristics and similarities. We're not quite the same. Like, I'm not even trying to. I pray this doesn't be perceived as racist, because I'm from that, or a racialist or anything like that. I'm the furthest from that, right? If you see my classes and my demographics and where I grew up and people I hang around, you see I'm pretty open-minded, but I'm a stickler to the truth, you know. And if you look at, like, truly, when you look at hair, this is the lessons from Dr. Laila Africa, rest his soul, you know, but he was breaking down analysis of hair, like your hair, your crown, it's beautiful, by the way, right? Your crown has the spirals, the helix, those coils, you know, that same spiral or circular force that is existing in nature exists on your hair. All man's hair, it represents that. Mankind doesn't have that coil, right? Their hair is more analogous to fur, right? So when you look at the fur of an animal to mankind's hair, it's the same.
Wow.
When you compare our hair, yeah. So we have differences. You know. And yeah, I don't want to get too deep into that, but
okay.
I
All right.
know.
I mean, what you're saying though is mind blowing, and I hope that one of the things that we do here on Sixtea is we hold a space for everyone to express whatever it is that they know, their wisdom, what they're following, what they're learning, what they are into, and you know, this 60 compared to yesterday. Angela talked all about her experience through Christ and Christianity. And though she and I didn't believe, you know, we don't have the same belief system, I always encourage people who are watching, like, before you decide, no, absolutely not. Go find out. Go.
Right.
That's the
Challenge.
beautiful thing about talking with people who study and have so much wisdom is go find out for yourself and then decide. You know, I've never heard this before ever in my life, ever in my life. So I'm really interested to know more.
I can send you some resources to take a look at.
Please do. And I'll tell you, one of the ways I learned to start loving my hair, I started rejecting the relaxer. For those of you who don't know, relaxer is it's what people people put in their hair to create their coils to be straight. It's a chemical, it's nasty chemicals, and you put on your hair, and it's the same chemicals they used to sprinkle on dead bodies, to be honest. I mean, that it is. So I started wearing my hair natural and just started rejecting that in like 6th or 7th grade. And one of the ways that you were talking about nature, hair resembling nature, and I had a friend who is he studied the sun, and he was talking about, he said your hair is just like sun rays. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, when sun rays come down to earth, they come down in these like coils, like just coming down in these coils to earth. And his whole job was to like collect sun energy, and as the sun, this helixes come through the atmosphere, they break up and stuff. But he said, this is like pure. I know you like purity, Izzy. This is like pure. This is an example of pure sun rays. And I was like, I love my hair.
Awesome. I love it. I love that brother, what he's sharing. You know, it's interesting, like the hair is like the grass of the earth, right? The function of the grass is to receive the rays of the sun and pull them down deep into the earth. So this is what your hair is doing for your body. It's receiving the cosmic radiation and pulling down into your body to be absorbed or uploaded through the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And circulated throughout. You know, so the science of the sun is probably the main game as far as spirituality goes all over the earth.
Yeah.
You know, most books like the Holy Bible is Helios Biblios, right? Helios meaning sun, Biblios meaning papers or book. It was SUN back then, you know? So how, you know, it's an understanding of the sun. The disciples in the books are all representations of the zodiac, right? Yeah, and the zodiac in German, the name is, I don't remember the name right now, but it means church, right? That's what the zodiac, the wheel, you know, so the old church was understanding the zodiac and its relationship to the earth, you, and the sun, right? And that's pretty much the fundamental spiritual culture from immemorial times to today. It's just there's been some distortions along the way, which always happens. You know, like when you play that game telephone, and you're like, this is my message.
Yeah.
You spread it out to this person, that person, by the 15th person. It's a whole completely different message, right? And that's essentially what's happened. And there's no blame or no fault to us for following after those traditions. But you said nothing is stopping us from doing our research. And if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But if you're earnest in your research, you'll find that I'm more right than wrong. And what I'm asserting, the ancient science, like you could look at, if you come back to Egypt, you look at this serpent we call Ra, R-A, right, Ra, and the science of Ra, which was the serpent. And that same serpent found its way into Indian culture as the Kundalini serpent, right? So that same serpent that came out of the Egyptian headdress, right? They call Nakabet and Wajet. And there was things that they wore on their, crowns, like diadems that circle around the crown. That's representative of solar energy.
Yes.
That's representative of people who elevated their consciousness up to the brain and then turned on the lights, the sun. Enlightenment, right? So that whole enlightenment, halo means Helios, which means sun, right? The halo, so you see those Greek pictures of the people, the saints have halos. They're just showing it. A halo, which is now horizontal, Hermetic was just a circle like this, and that was Ra.
Yes.
Right? It was a snake coiled within the sun. So this is just the old religion just showing, but they change it. I say the distortions occur. So the science of today, as children of the sun, right, children of the Most High, we have to then know how to turn on the inner sun within us, and that's really what properly understood is all about. How to make your body become super receptive to receive solar energy. It's a solar energy that is preeminent above food, air, and water, right? The sun didn't have light. How long do you think the earth would, if the earth didn't have light, how long do you think the earth would exist?
I mean, like, if the sun just suddenly went out, we would have as long as the last rays hit us.
Exactly. So
I mean, that's it.
That's it. And that's what happens with your chi. When your chi leaves, you leave too. You leave your body. Your body will leave. You'll go back. Your body will return to dirt, and you'll return back to the heavens. Right? So that's the importance of this kind of cultivation and such.
Can I ask, I mean, have you always, you said before, I used to be super Christian. You've been through many evolutions. Before you really started knowing or studying about the herbs and the crystals and understanding yourself in these terms that we see you talk about, the Qigong and all of that, how would you describe like where your health was at? Like what happened before you got on a sort of a conscious health journey?
Well, I was kind of like, so I grew up in a suburban, my parents we moved from Nigeria. They moved from Nigeria and they had me in Rhode Island. So I was the first in my line born outside of Africa soils. But I was fortunate to have a very steadfast father who was just steeped in African history. Right, he taught it. He was contemporaries with all the greats, like Dr. Ben and John Henrik Clark and Ivan Van Sertima. Like those were his colleagues. He was on that caliber, and so he wasn't playing games. He brought Khalid Abdul Muhammad to our college twice. Remember him? He was a fiery member of the Nation of Islam who was kicked out because of his rhetoric by Farrakhan. He was fiery. He was pure fire. He brought it, and whenever he brought it, he caused people to quake. My father was friends with him. Right? So I was steeped in that, fortunately. And my mother, she's always been like the blessing, just the soft, merciful, teaching, cuddling, and give me everything I need. So I had a very good upbringing. But I grew up in the suburbs, people that look like me. I started questioning like many of us out here, perhaps, started questioning my own identity. Who am I? I'm like my oddity in the midst of all these spaces and places of oddity, and I just didn't quite feel myself. And so I started trying to hide from who I was. I would never proudly wear, clothes. I'd always want to be like in blue jeans or whatever the popular or the dominant culture was wearing. I wanted to be like, so I wanted to hide from my African roots. So I went through being lost in the wilderness for a while. right? And in that time, I started embracing elements, I started having, I just was, I started be hanging out with thugs, trying to be like a mini gangster. Sometimes I'd be hanging out with the geeks, you know. I was always athletic. And I was ultra shy. So I never really had like a girlfriend until I reached college. So I was just like all confused. Like, Benny loves me. I was just a mess. And then I had this experience in Atlanta, Georgia. I was wilding out and got kicked out of the place. And I was sent away to Georgia, near Atlanta, Conyers, Georgia. And it was there that I found some Christian, my aunt, I lived with, and her husband. Take me to this church, and there were these Igbo preachers, right? And they was hitting that word, and oh my God, that word just penetrated my very soul.
When
And
you
I started seeing ways.
Eze, when you say that word, are you talking about what exactly are you talking about?
Good question. So the word is like, at this time it was captured in a, but to me the word is bigger than just religion. It's the spirit or the wisdom of God, how it's communicated. And if you have ears that are open, you can hear that word, right? If your eyes are open, you can see that word. If your tongue is free, you can taste it. Oh, I was me. And it made me look at like the non-self and the fakeness that I was portraying. And the reality of me was starting to reemerge, right? And that's a crossroad. And I hit that crossroad in Georgia. And I started then I made a decision at that point to allow the real me to start emerging, right? And it was at that point, not long after that, I was accepted back home. I was like 18 or at that time. And I started changing, and I started learning about herbs and all these things and spirituality and Asian cultures and Zen and Taoism, right? Rastafarianism, like started blowing my mind. And I went into college. I wouldn't even read my books. I go to fortunately I was smart enough to like not have to study much, still maintain my grades. But I spent my time in the library studying these kind of things while my friends would be hard at work studying their coursework. And I started really building up this whole thing where I learned a philosophy and started learning these ancient philosophies, and healers in those philosophies started really what's about like how was a healer. And so it was something like that. So beforehand I was an athletic gangster nerd. And that was my health. So my health was pretty good, but my mental health was in the pits.
What about now? I'm understanding everything you're saying, but we had this conversation earlier this week, or maybe last week. We were talking about. So you're saying your health is pretty good. Your mental health was sort of what you were waking up to working on. What about sugar? What was your sugar?
That's the great. Sugar was definitely a demon. Sugar was a demon that it took some time to shake. It took some time to shake. I was under its influence many hours of the day, right? Like, I still remember being a youngster and sneaking, like, we call it pop in upstate New York, pop or soda, maybe call it soda. Pop, like, in our lockers, and I have like this, this big bottle of 3 liters, getting that down between classes, and you know what I'm saying, and rushing to the dentist like months later, taking care of cavities, not even seeing the correlation. But yeah, sugar is massive because in Chinese medicine, the sweet taste, right? Sweet taste every organ relates to a taste. So
Yes.
the sweet taste relates to your spleen and your stomach.
Okay.
And that spleen and stomach system emotionally deals with worry, but on another side of it, it deals with self-love.
No
Right?
way.
So
What?
every time one reaches for that sweet taste, it's nourishment, because the first sweet taste that you experience in this life is mother's milk through the breast. Right?
Okay.
At that point, you are always satiated, right? You're fully nourished, had all that you need, right? And so we're always looking for energy, that nourishment, and we equate the sweet taste that which we're truly looking for in our life, and that's where sweet cravings come from.
So what was your discovery? Like, how did you move away from your experience with this demon that is sugar?
So what I had to learn was how to provide self-nourishment, self-love to me, like genuinely, right? And that's where cultivation practices such as the Qigong, where I'm actually carving out a segment of time in the day dedicated to walk, yours truly, right? And so that might be an hour in the day and not night, but during that time, I'm giving myself the nourishment needed. My spleen stomach is healing and it's able to provide more chemicals in that I was seeking from the sugar. So that was a tremendous help. Then I took herbs that help cut addictive qualities, such as weed. It's very helpful to reduce the sugar craving. I think I shared with you before I'm not sure if you were able to discover it, the Crave X and the Crave Less.
Yes, we have to talk more about that off camera because there's some products that are continued, some that are discontinued, and I do have a goal to end my relationship with processed sugar this year and to fall in love with dark leafy greens. So yes, the Crave X or the Crave Less. Tell us, please.
Yeah, that's just something that has substances in there that help to the same pathways that cravings work through. They also work through that pathway, and they help you to reconfigure the energy traveling in that pathway. As long as your mind is on something different, it will shift. Yeah, it will shift you away from the addictive patterning that we've maybe become crystallized, you know, and so, you have to remove that patterning, and that's what the Crave X, the Crave Less, the chickweed. There's another herb called cassia, Quassia, or Qassia, Quassia. It's a herb that also helps to remove addictions from.
Quassia or Quassia.
Old African. Yeah.
So Quassia and chickweed, you said?
Yes, those are herbs. And then that's any addiction. It doesn't have to be just a sugar craving. Any addiction one may be subject to if they want to utilize that. And so that could be smoking, that could be chocolate cake, sports, that could be to the news, that could be to sex, whatever it may be.
So, what's really interesting is when it comes to sugar, I find that when I'm craving it, there's like this part of my mind that steps out that goes, watch what's going to happen. There's part of my body's just like, it's almost like my body is still on the track, but my mind is like, I hear my body tell my mind, oh, you just accomplished this thing, get some sugar. And my mind is going, no, I know that trick. And then my body, it's like coming from in here and it's moving up. I can feel it. And my body's like, oh, you know what? You're going to walk a little extra tomorrow. Just get it. And my mom's like, no, I know that one too. And like, I feel my body as my whole system having conversations with itself.
Yes.
And it turns into, sometimes it turns into a full-on battle.
Yeah, they're going at it.
And
my
spirit literally stands back and is like, is this where it's like, there's a question of like, is this where you want to spend your energy? What is the path that we should take? What is your intention? My spirit's asking these like really deep, pure questions. What is your intention? Which path should we take? What do you really want to create? Are you willing to commit? It's all happening at the same time, all around sugar. And the fact that you're talking about like this demon, that's sugar, that it does feel like there is those veins of demon that is inside me when it comes to sugar.
Yeah.
It's deeper than just having a sweet tooth.
Yeah, it can be. But again, remember the undercut of that is, the underbelly of that is that it's one who's really seeking deep self-love, self-nourishment, self-embrace, right? So the more you can give yourself that energy, immerse yourself in that energy, and let your spiritual life be a demonstration of that energy, the easier it will become to drop the inner conversation that's occurring, because that's kind of what they call the inner conflicts, like psychology, psychiatry, right? The inner conflicts. So you have one side that wants to go this way, you have another side that wants to go this way, and where they clash, that's the battle, that's the fight you're talking about. Whoever wins out, that's what you're going to decide to do. And like I said earlier, some of these patterns, thoughts, energies, ideas have been crystallized. So we have to then reprogram the body with the mind. And that's the aspect, at least the meditation that I teach and the meditation that I've been taught, which is coming out of the Hermetic stream of meditation, ancient Egyptian stream. I've become a priest in this tradition.
Can you say again, because it cut off just a little bit, what is the type of meditation that you teach?
So, I'm a part of a tradition called Oset Society, right? AUSAR, AUSET. Oset Society. And we're, our chief priest, our sage king is a man named Ra-Un Nefer Amen. And he has restored us to this kind of way of life, Pan-African lifestyle. And so some of these meditations that we are doing, they're with the Kemetic deities, or Neteru, we call them, forces. Neteru, like I said, just nature, natural. So these forces of nature, which are within us, which people today call gods, right? But they're just forces of nature. They're part of the very fabric of our being. And that's why you have to invoke, right? When you look at that word invoke, invoke means to call out. Invoke, VOC, means to call out. And when you put in front, from within, you're calling out. So the gods that we're seeking are the gods that when we go into possession, deep aspects of our intelligence, fine aspects of our intelligence, that's what comes out. It gives you talents, gives you wisdom, gives you power, so on and so forth. So it's these gods, these Nataru, can be called out via chants, which we call mantras. Right? And the importance of a mantra is like, if I was like, hey, Jillian, would you turn your head if I said that? Say we're in the crowd, because your name is what?
Alexandra.
So if I wanted to call Alexandra, if I wanted to bring her attention to me, I have to call her name, right? And so these words, these mantras, these hekals are the powers that know how to call out specific aspects of us, aspects of our personality, right? And we run into problems in life because we all come back to earth with a dominant personality type. Dominant god or goddess is our primary expression. We have other expressions, at least 11 within us.
Yes.
And so the ancient systems, they had a very beautiful rotational aspect of following the moons. moon cycles, every new moon you would nourish and identify, you would nourish a different aspect of your personality complex. So throughout the whole year, you feed all aspects of your true self, your being, and that's how you became whole or holy, right? Yeah. See, so that's the thing. So that's what I'm into, and so this month right now we're in, we call the goddess Ma'at. So all of us, at least, my Osiris family around the world, we're focused on strengthening that Ma'at within us, which is the goddess of love, the goddess of truth, right? And ancient Kemet, the first creation of God was truth, right? But also, God is like, it's a very beautiful story that they say, like, God is in this immaterial plane, right? Non-existence, is, right? And then before he created existence, but before God itself comes step into existence, the Kemetic scripture says that there was nowhere for God to stand. So the God had to create a pedestal. And the pedestal that God created was the law, which is truth.
The pedestal that was created was what?
The law, which is truth, right? So if you see, like, the law are these laws of God, right? The laws of God, which, in the Christian world come down as the commandments, right? This is like a distortion from the Kemetic laws, 11 laws of God. Right? They dropped some of them and they dropped one law and made them 10 commandments. It's not the same way that we had it originally. But for God itself to come into its creation, it had to create the law so that it would be bound to living truthfully itself. Right? So if you know that, saying if God itself said, I have to be lawful to step into my creation to enjoy it, so then that which is created, if they can become lawful in their persons, then they can invite the presence of their God to return to their life too and make them successful and healthy as well. Right? And that's the aim. That's the aim of ancient religions, ancient spiritual.
Thank you for sharing that. And I did notice that you said God itself.
Yes.
I just wonder, was that conscious, and do you practice perceiving God as God rather than a he or a she?
Yeah, there's no that has no gender. God wouldn't be confused if it went to Walmart and had to go to the bathroom and be like, "Oh, do I go to the one with the dress or the one with the pants?" That's not God's thing. That's duality. God is the full unification of all things, unity. So it contains in itself male, it contains itself female, one or the other, right? Just like us, I have testosterone, but I also have estrogen in my body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have the male principle, testosterone, but I also have the female principle, estrogen. Why? Because I'm a reflection of that one unified force. And the one unified force will express itself in life as dualities that are elementary. Okay. So, like, for instance, this principle goes into work when you look at like the only time you really see brothers come into practice to see me or something like that is like when they have sexual issues. Right?
When they have, sorry, go back because this is important. When you see brothers come into practice, is usually when what?
They have like reproductive issues.
That's
generally when you see a lot of men coming and asking for help, right? And so, and when you listen to see what have they been doing, to treat themselves before coming to see me. They'll say like, "Oh, I took all these herbs, I took this herb and that herb and that herb." And when you look at them, they're generally testosterone building herbs, right?
okay.
But in their formulas, they neglect the estrogenic aspect, the building aspect, right?
Okay.
So the female principle in medicine is a container for matter, right? It holds energy. The male principle in medicine is the electric current movement, right? So if you want to rebuild an energy in your body, you need to bring the female principle, the container, which the Chinese will call yin, right? And then you need to bring the electrical aspect. So yin would be like magnetic, and then the yang would be like electric, right? So complements, dualities, they have to be involved in all your medication, all your medicines are all like that, right?
That's
There's this
fascinating.
thing, yeah, but that's medicine, from the old days. So the female principle, she's the holder of life. You have to bring that in. You can't just be on the currency, because there's nothing to hold that. That's why you need the female energy. So the female, the estrogen in us is the holder of the life. The testosterone is what makes that life active, kinetic, right? And herbs, crystals, essential oils, all these have that same kind of dichotomy. And if you understand the dichotomy, then you can make it work for your advantage.
That's fascinating, and it's interesting. And this is something we talked about once when we were talking about Dr. Layla Africa, and he talks a lot about balance. You talk a lot about balance, and we, like you're saying, those balances of male and female are happening in different ways in our bodies, in our cells, and in any part of our body. If we look inside, we're going to find the answers to the universe, how the universe was created, and also the best way of how we can live to fulfill what we were created for. It's very it's interesting because I know there's a lot of complexity and layers, but it's also very simple as well.
It's simple, and that's the way.
The principles are simple.
Yes, and that's why medicine is easier taught from this perspective versus a more complicated perspective that we have today, right? Everything that gets complex and these big words, no understanding of what these words really mean, and we get further and it's the telephone game again, it's the telephone game. And so what I aspire to is to just return to the roots, to a simpler time, with a simpler understanding of the world and how to interact within it. Within a month, the first 15 days of a month and the last 15 days of the month are the male and female principle. Okay? The first 15 days, if you look at the moon from new to full, the new moon to full moon, you're gathering this watery energy, this life to occur.
So you're talking about moon months, just to be clear.
Yes, moon months, okay. Lunar cycle. And the 28 days of the lunar cycle, from day 1 to 14 is the feminine principle of that cycle. And then from 15 to 8, the masculine principle, right? So if you want to build and to grow things, if you want to build new brain cells, you want to build a new habit, you want to build new brain cells, you want to build whatever you want to build, whatever you want to build in your body. And the month, the new moon, the first 14 days, that's the best time to do it. You want to let go of something. You want to let go of a tumor, fibroid, cyst, an addiction. Then you want to aim your techniques the waning side of the moon's energy. You see, that's to let things go. So the build up is the first half. To let go is the male present.
It's, you look at the moon and it's so obvious.
Exactly.
We didn't have so much light and buildings and distraction from this before we lived in these houses and had, city lights staring up into the sky. It's so obvious. We have just like 10 more minutes here, and I still have a few questions I really want to ask. The first one is, what are you working on right now that you're really excited about? What that people could find and possibly work with you on?
Well, I don't know. I'm writing a book.
Yes.
That's something. And I also completed a Qigong video. So I created a Qigong. Yeah, I created a form. I don't know what to call it yet, but essentially it's loosely patterned, well, very not loosely, it's very directly patterned after what we call the 7 energetic vectors of life. And these vectors are how all things in this earth are created. There's a circle, there's a linear shape, there's a horizontal shape, vertical, linear, horizontal, the quad, the diagonal shapes, right? All crystals have these kind of shapes, right? Generally, if you have a crystal that you like this quartz, right? So,
Yes.
and quartz has what's called a trigonal shape, meaning the triangular bones in your body correspond to quartz crystal. So if you have issues in your scapula, for instance, or your pelvic region, or excuse me, the sacrum, then quartz would be the crystal of choice to heal you in those regions. A lot of people have shoulder issues, sacral, things going on in their sacrum. They need to clear that, and that's when you would reach for quartz, right? So this Qigong is patterned in that kind of understanding where there's different ways that your body opens and grows, and I just pattern those in movement form, and I take you through 14 movements, and essentially it's going to put you in touch with all the forces, dynamic forces of creation on your body. Your body will recognize that ancient blueprint, and it will reawaken the energy that's necessary. Because think about it, when we were younger and babies, we couldn't move, you know, and we had to kind of do stuff like this on the floor, wiggle like a reptile, like a snake.
Yes.
And then we learned how to assume what's called the upright posture. All right, and so the baby can sit up. And then once the baby started learning how to balance the heaviness of the head, it could stand up.
Yes.
And you can stand, you can walk. If you can walk, you can move towards your destiny. Right? And so, you know, it lets you know that if people have hard time with their limbs, hard time moving, psychologically, maybe there's something in their destiny they feel like they cannot achieve.
Yes.
Or they're moving in a way that's not in step with their destiny, hence the leg pains, right? So part of the healing, yes, there's herbs, crystals, qigong movements. The meditation will be like, what is it in your destiny that you cannot move towards? All of that will go into healing someone with leg problems, right?
And this is the basis of your book.
Yes.
Oh my God. You have to come back and tell us what do you have like a sort of time when you think it's coming?
No timeline, because I just write, I just write daily and hopefully bring it together sooner or later.
All right. Well, I hope that you say when it does come out, you save time for Sixtea and Alexandra and Sixtea, and we can talk about it when it comes out, because that's just hearing you talk about this stuff. It's like, you know, there's so much information out there. There's a lot of us, even, you know, I work with a lot of people who are like just unplugging from the system and going, oh, there's more than what the system fed me. And it's overwhelming to them to know where to study, where to start, what to look at. There's people like me who have been constantly unplugging for many, many years. And I still am like, it's so overwhelming. What do I say next? Where do I go? Like, how do I, you know, ground myself in what, you know, my next study is. And so I think that there's a lot of value in the way you explain things. It's very gentle, but it's like grounded. It's just like simple the way you lay things out. So I think that book is going to be really important for a lot of people. And I'm really excited about it.
Yes. Send me some energy of getting it done.
Yes, I will. As I have a couple more questions for you, and then we'll say goodbye for now. What is your blessing for this world?
Find your truth and live it to the best of your ability.
Find your truth and live it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. And if you do that, you're going to be blessed. You're going to be blessed no matter what.
My last question for you, Eze, is If Eze of 15 years ago walked in the door and sat down and started talking to you, what would you tell him?
Stop pulling your hair because you'll go bald. Thanks a lot, man. You did this to me.
I love it. Eze, you look great bald. It was a gift.
Thank you. Some people can pull it off. I'm still trying to work it out. Even today, I was looking like kind of cavemanish. I got like, Wolverine, kind of look Bushman, but it's like, I figured you wouldn't judge me. Your people probably won't judge me, so I'm okay.
No, we love rugged. Let's do it. Eze, where would you like people to find you?
Okay, so well, people are interested. I always teach Qigong online now.
Yes, and I just posted that.
Tuesdays and Thursdays I have class, so you can check in tonight at 6:30 Eastern time. And we're gonna go into a form today where it's all about it's a priestly form of Qigong I learned from the Taoists of Wudang Mountain in China. I spent some time in China studying, and I learned some things from China and some things from Taiwan when I was there, and things from Vietnam and things from Cambodia. So this form is going to be a form that I learned from the Chinese, the Wudang priesthood, and it's just generally a way that they bring their initiates in and teach them how to redefine their body and their energy in a manner which is suitable for priestly pursuits. That's spiritual pursuits. Meditation, especially. So if you're interested in those things, feel free to check in tonight and see what I'm offering. And then you can always see me on Instagram, I guess. I'm not always so active on Instagram, but it's at More Dibia. Maybe I'll write it in the chat here.
I have it in the links. I shared it right there for you.
Oh, you're so good. You're so good. But there's no one like you. Just loves.
There is no one like me. That's true for all of us. There is no one like you, so be it.
That's right. But I'm a little thirsty. I didn't, even though this is called Sixtea, I didn't taste any of your tea. You didn't offer
know what
me
I'm
any.
drinking right now? This is actually, you might have something to say about this. I found out, so I love sort of boiling ginger for half a day and then drinking it, adding it to anything I'm drinking, sometimes to soup. And I found out by mistake that if I turn off the boil and let it go cold for a day and a half, and it just like there's a tiny bit of that fermentation taste. You know what I'm talking about? Like it just bubbles tiny bit on the top. I actually really like a day of cold fermentation after I've boiled it for a couple of days. And I don't know why. It's not appetizing to other people, but I really like it.
Well, fermented tea, so I'm not very big into fermentation things because that's rotten things, right? Rotten. But there's a way in the wintertime, we're not supposed to eat a lot of food. We're in this kind of like latitude, longitude, right? The east, northeast, where we have a harsh winter. You're not supposed to eat a lot of food, so nature's like hibernating.
Yes.
When you have fermented foods, that's nature breaking things down by itself, so it makes it very easy to digest. Right? And so easily digestible foods are acceptable in the winter season. This is the time to drink your kombuchas and so on and so forth. It's acceptable. It will help your body to maintain an ideal weight, serve energy because it's not wasting a lot of energy and breaking stuff down when the body's trying to keep everything warm. So a lot of illnesses that would be experienced in the spring season, the following season, you can ameliorate living the correct law in the winter time via the fermented foods.
Wow. You know so many things. Did you talk about some of this yesterday at Africa Week 2020 when you were talking about?
I don't think. I just got to catch it on a Qigong category strictly.
Okay. Eze, friends, go follow Eze. You know how to find him on Instagram. You can find him also on Facebook. His for those of you who are Facebookers, you can find him on Facebook, and I'll post that right here as well. His full name is I'm going to
Nwabueze.
Nwabueze Okoye.
Yes, perfect. You sound like
So
an
you're
Igbo woman.
different there. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking your time. Bless you in this journey. I really appreciate you've delivered so much wisdom here. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
You too. I really look forward to this meeting, and you did not disappoint at all. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. Bye, Eze.
Bye, dear.
Ialelé, são duas garotas do desacato. Alala, ialelé, provoca até cenas de fuzilado. Alala, ialelé, são duas garotas do desacato. Alala, ialelé, provoca até cenas de fuzilado.